Okay, welcome in everybody. The short week concludes tonight. This is the Slate. We come to you live on the DraftKings Twitter feed. Also, DK Nation Twitter feed. We also come to you on YouTube and Twitch. This is the Slate. We take you up until 5:55 tonight before the late slate of Madden games. Wow. Brendan Glasheen, Reed Fowler, Jeff Ulrich. We're talking to you mostly football for the next 40 minutes, getting you ready for tomorrow. 3 games, of course, on Thanksgiving. Final thoughts, developing thoughts before we head into tomorrow. We'll certainly look ahead to Sunday. Anything DFS related, sports betting related. Not many big spreads going into Sunday. A lot of close games to be expected. And we have 2 golf experts here, so we will certainly touch on the match DeChambeau against Koepka starting on Friday. Jeff, hi. Good to see you. Reed, you too.
What's up, bud?
Glad to have you in there, buddy.
Yeah. I feel like I have like a Brendan Glasheen background because during the DK Sims, you had like a few different ones. And I feel like one was where like you were in a corner and there was a bed behind you. So I did this just specifically for you. Yeah.
I'm trying to touch up a little office section out here. Making adjustments as we go. You know, it's taken a while, but we've finally arrived at this point. So
I don't have the pink curtains though, like you used to.
That's the Holiday Inn curtains, as some said.
I'm just glad you're here filling in for Emerson. He's got a big day. Just, he's been defending like mac and cheese on his Twitter timeline and stuff. So clearly, very busy time for him.
Is that a big thing? I've seen that at like multiple places. That and like people like coming after the people like me who have a million tabs open. Like I have like 40 tabs open right now. Like that's just how I operate. And people think that's psychotic.
I mean,
as long as you feel organized, I think that's
fine. Yeah, because you can organize the tabs, right? You can categorize them, right? Like you can put them all in one grouping, and so when you don't want them, you can minimize it to just one tab. Come on, guys.
So are you both yes or no on mac and cheese as a Thanksgiving plate? Is that the discussion?
I like it.
I'm fine. I mean, I wasn't attacking it. Emerson just was like legitimately, trying to fight some people this morning on his Twitter timeline. I just saw randomly. So he feels very strongly about it being involved. I'm okay with it, if it's done correctly.
Well, he's a fat kid at heart,
if you're just throwing in like the regular KD or something into your Thanksgiving mix, that's a no. That shouldn't be happening. But like the homemade stuff, yeah, absolutely, man.
He should just stick to cereal debate and go from there, right?
Stay in your lane, Emerson. Just cereal. No, but I was saying like he was a fat kid, like in college. So like he has to defend his all of his food groups that he loves. And mac and cheese is like that's what you live on in college.
He's gotta have the mac and cheese with skim milk. That was the adjustment he made. Anyway, we'll move on. What are our developing opinions of tomorrow's slate? Jeff just mentioned it. He's kind of annoyed with all of these injuries. We have to monitor them, especially for swapping throughout the day for a DraftKings lineup. You want to get involved in the $2.75 million fantasy football millionaire tomorrow for Thanksgiving, 3-game slate, of course. And then from a betting perspective, lines continue to move. We're seeing the Raiders are now 7.5-point underdogs. Jared Goff might play tomorrow. So now I'm curious, was there value earlier in the week in Lions money line? Now the number's coming down. And then, oh my goodness, a home dog. Reed, I know Reed's very annoyed with the New Orleans Saints. I think Reed has just had enough of the Saints. That's a team too, where I'm like, 6 points now. It was 6.5 earlier in the day. Reed, what's your leadoff thought for tomorrow?
Yeah, you're right, Glash. I think these teams, the parity in the NFL right now is absolutely crazy, right? Because the Saints, before last week, which I was high on, they at that number, at like that +3 number that they were getting, they're 4-0 ATS. So when you take a look at how they operate, really good at the run, right? Like their offense isn't stellar, but it's average to below average. So when you have that combination, then you can potentially stay in the games. Now we're probably seeing that Alvin Kamara, him not being there and having Mark Ingram be essentially your best player on offense isn't going to cut it, especially when you have Trevor Siemian in the first 3 quarters, has the worst PFF grade of any starting quarterback. Like he's like bottom of like the 44 qualified quarterbacks that have played this season. He's the absolute worst in the first 3 quarters. That's just not going to cut against Philadelphia. But you take a look at this game, Glash, like you mentioned, and this week, they still have value, right? Because they can do that and they can come back in the 4th quarter. And what have we seen from Buffalo? We haven't seen anything impressive. When you're talking about the Lions too, like I don't know if there's a big difference to Jared Goff. right? I think this is a red herring. I think that the numbers coming down, trying to get people booked, trying to get people off of Chicago, which is, I wouldn't say clearly the better team, but I think all of us think that that's just a better team. I think these are both bad teams. And I just don't like the Lions. I do lean towards them because ATS, they've been fine. But I still think that with Jared Goff, if he's just 50%, I mean, Jared Goff at 100% is not the trust. Him at 75% or whatever he's going to be, I don't know. I think they might be pushing it. So I'd still side with Chicago winning this outright. But yeah, I mean, the Lions, I think, still do present some value getting those points.
Yeah, Jeff, to Reed's point, the Lions are 6-4 against the spread this season in 10 games, even though they are winless straight up. What are your thoughts? What do you got?
The Bears-Lions game is just it.
We're gonna watch the dog show instead. We're not gonna watch the football game. We'll watch.
No, I mean show. It's like I was talking about this like earlier on a different parade. NFL show. Mm. And I mean, this is like the dried turkey, but because we have DFS and betting available, you can throw lots of cranberry sauce on it, and you can throw DFS and betting on this game and make it interesting.
Very good.
So the Bears obviously. I guess they're the better team. I mean, I really struggle to say that because they've just looked so bad over the last, offensively and getting Justin Fields and that offense going. But, this does feel like a game where whoever gets in front is going to just sit on it and just try and protect that lead with like every inch of their life, because they know that offensively, like the yards are going to be so hard to come by. I don't want to trust any favorite in this kind of spot. That's kind of my take on this game. I'm not saying I want to go big on the Lions here or anything, but there's probably we're basically saying that, the Bears are like almost like 5 points better than the Lions because they're playing on the road and they're getting 2.5 points. Like, do people really think that about the Bears? This isn't a good pass defense. They're starting Andy Dalton. The best skill player in this game is probably DeAndre Swift. There's lots of like routes here for the Lions to definitely win. I think playing the Lions money line is fine, to be honest, in this game. I think you take the plus money, and that's pretty much just the way I'd look at this. I mean, I'm not going after this one with all of my heart or anything. This is just, there's so many injuries and stuff in this game too, that it just feels like anything could happen. It feels like this is a game where special teams or some kind of turnover is probably going to have a big impact. And, that's already a big impact when we're betting NFL games. Like, these games can switch on like one play, but it definitely feels like this game is going to come down to it. And in those situations, man, just take the team that's getting the points.
Yeah, that's a good point. Bears -3. This is courtesy of Steve Buchanan of the DK Sportsbook. 57% of the money and the bets coming in on Bears -3. As Jeff mentioned, it's now moved to 2.5 points. Implied team totals. Are we sure the Lions can score 20 points? Like, their point total is 19.
No, the thing is, no, but are you sure the Bears can score 10 points? Like,
right. Yeah.
I mean, the running backs are really like the plays here. And it's like whoever gets in front, whoever's O-line, you believe in more here. And like lately, the Lions have run the ball well with DeAndre Swift. So I don't know. I think that's
the thing, Jeff, is like, sorry to cut you off, but
no, go ahead. I mean, I don't really want to talk about
the Lions offensive line is actually better, right, than Chicago's. These two teams met earlier this year. I think it was week 3, and the over under was 41.5, and the spread was 2.5. Chicago giving 2.5. So, and Justin Fields was playing, but like it's I think it was week 4, but like we kind of have a blueprint of what happened, and I know Andy Dalton is not Justin Fields and vice versa, but I mean, this is Matt Nagy. Is this his last game? Like all the reports came out. Go ahead.
He denied that rumor today. He was asked about it.
Okay. Well, like if Matt Nagy's denying the rumor,
it's still a thing. Like let's
right. Matt Nagy is not
it's not a thing. Yeah.
He's not the arbiter of his fate. We all know that. I think Matt Nagy gave up that a long time ago. But
Pace might go too. But that's a whole show on that. Yeah. He
was the one who was staunch Andy Dalton for the first few weeks. Like, Andy Dalton's my starter. He's my guy. He's going to make us win, yada, yada, yada. So there's a level of confidence that Nagy has with Andy Dalton. And I know, beginning, I I said Detroit with the points, but the more I think about it, this kind of feels like the Bears, right, are going to just, like Jeff mentioned, just get up by a touchdown and run the ball with Montgomery. He's in on 95% of the snaps. I know we'll talk about it from a showdown perspective in a little bit. Like, man, the Lions are so bad. Their defense, they're 31st in rush defense. They're 32nd in overall defense. They're like 29th to 30th in offense. I just don't see how, especially with Tim Boyle. Tim Boyle had negative points in terms of fantasy per dropback. That is extremely hard to do. And Tim Boyle achieved that awesome moniker.
And I think, the bet I actually want to take on here is the under, because Reed mentioned like the game before, 24-14. Now the Bears probably have less of a chance to score like 24 points, but still like a 13-17 game. Like, I'm surprised this game total is up 41.5 with Andy Dalton and Tim Boyle starting. I'm really surprised this isn't like 38 or something. So, and I think it'll get down to like 40 by game time. So that's the bet I'm interested in. I think Chicago is probably the better team. Are they worth 5 points here? I don't know. I'd argue they're a little bit overvalued, but I don't really want to bet Detroit. I just, like, if we're really like saying, what bet do you like on the money line or the spread? I'd probably just dabble on the Detroit money line, but realistically, I don't really want to bet this game.
If you really want to bet this game, just to make it interesting, like, you would have to have the Lions as like half of your teaser. But even then, it's like, why even do that, right? Like, the next game that I'm sure we'll talk about is the one you want to tease. But like, this game is, I wish you could flex it out, because from that 3-game slate Glash you talked about, what's so unique, like what the strategy is, usually what I do is that you wait to play the guys, right? You roster the late games because you can swap in and out. Like, it's just, you don't want to put too much onto this first game. Other than DeAndre Swift, like, and David Montgomery, who are going to be extremely chalky.
Yeah.
Who else are you going to play? Like TJ Hawkinson?
Yeah, right. So,
yeah, but then Dalton Schultz is a guy, right?
And look, for DFS purposes, that and again, like, everybody is playing the running backs from this game. Nobody's playing the receivers. So if you want to differentiate, man, like
Khalif Raymond.
You do Khalif Raymond. Mooney will probably get some ownership because he's coming off a 15-target game. But the Bears secondary receivers aren't going to be on. I don't know. It's really thin. I'd probably play like a Khalif Raymond or something if I was going to target a receiver in this game, like a Lions side. And then maybe even fade Swift, which sounds extremely dangerous. But the Bears have been okay against the run this year. Their defense has been really bad against the pass. Like, their corners are bad. So it is a spot where maybe like a Raymond or an Amon, Amon Ross, like St. Brown maybe gets loose. That's the strategy standpoint. And we had a really small slate. So
is Josh Reynolds? Is he
Josh Reynolds? Yeah, that's the other name.
Yeah.
Josh Reynolds, 3 targets in the loss to Cleveland. That's right.
So,
he just got picked up there.
If you're interested in that, if you're playing the strategy, I think like Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond, probably the names you want to target.
So
both teams, and Jeff, I'm in with you on this one too. I'm really curious. So a large percentage of the bets and the money coming in on the under in this game at 72%, 65% of the bets. Both teams are 3-7 to the under this year, or pardon me, to the over. 3-7 to the over. So these are better teams to the under on the total. That's curious. Why is it still at 41.5? I'm interested. And unders are hitting, like, for the most part this year.
Yeah. It's a good question. Probably because Jared Goff is questionable.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what's holding it up. That's about the only thing I can suggest. And I think that maybe there is like a little bit of an opportunity there, because I think that once he gets ruled out, you'll see this drop, right? I think Jared Goff, because like Reed mentioned the stats on Tim Boyle. Tim Boyle it's going to be a disaster.
God awful.
So yeah, I think that's probably why. And the books don't want to put up like a 40 or a 39 right away. That's the most likely reasoning. So, because I think that once Boyle gets, if they put up like too low a number, and then Goff gets in, I think people would hammer the over. And I think like Goff probably adds a little bit, but I'm not like overly concerned about who's starting at quarterback. We saw Jared Goff against the Bears earlier in the season. It wasn't anything. He hasn't been anything special all year. So I don't know.
Yeah,
12:30 start tomorrow. 12:30. Go ahead.
If you look at the Lions, they've played mediocre teams well, if that's the word I could use. So if Jared Goff is in, I think Jeff, you mentioned it, right? Like if Jared Goff is in, this is the books protecting themselves. That if they put it at 39 and Goff is in, I think that's a really good case for the over. Because you take a look at what they've done, right? Like the Bills aren't, the Lions, like they've like the last, three games, 42, 40 and a half, 48 and a half. They actually went over in that 48 and a half because Philadelphia scored 44 points. Like, could Chicago, I know they don't have Allen Robinson. I know they only have no trade Jimmy Claus, Jimmy Graham, and Cole Kmet, and they have some players, right? Like skill-wise, Chicago has some players. Could Chicago put up 30 points? I mean, Andy Dalton's not great, but he's not bad, right? He just doesn't pass downfield. But the Lions defense, they don't have fast linebackers, right? Their secondary is all right, and they don't have a pass rush. So I could easily see some guy like Darnell Mooney, if he doesn't do his, 80-yard, touchdown through the air, if he gets a bubble screen, you could definitely see the Chicago Bears put up 25 to 30 points. And then from that standpoint, all the Lions have to do is put up 12, right? Like, that's not asking a lot. Again, maybe on the Chicago side, but maybe on the Chicago side.
Yeah, 11, 19, 6, 16, 10 over the last 5 points, 4.
Yeah, Nagy loves Dalton, though, man. That's the only thing that worries me about taking the under.
It's true. Maybe Andy Dalton will be out to showcase himself for yet another job and maybe get overpaid and be named the QB1 in August of next year.
It does feel like a spot where everybody is expecting this to be Matt Nagy's last game. The Bears, everyone, might be piling on, the whole Detroit getting their first win narrative. And then Chicago just goes out, actually looks semi-confident on offense against a terrible defense, which we should all expect, like Reed said. And then Nagy's just, there for a couple more games or something. So that is the most likely scenario. I mean, look, Chicago is favored in this game. So, if you're looking at it from a DFS perspective, again, like the passing offenses in this game and are just like, most people are just crossing them out. I mean, they're just not playing them. Yeah. So I think for DFS, this game is like it's kind of the pivotal one of the slate. Like if the running backs bust here and a couple guys like Darnell Mooney goes nuts, I mean, you're going to see some low ownership on those, like a Dalton Mooney stack or something. So
we can transition into the middle game of the day, and we'll use that with a question. CJ71 has a question. Would you make Michael Gallup your captain in tomorrow's showdown, or at least put him in classic? I pulled the showdown slate up for tomorrow for Vegas and Dallas. Gallup is 13,200 in the captain spot, coming off a 10-target game against Kansas City. No Amari Cooper. I think CeeDee Lamb's going to go full participant today in practice, dealing with the concussion, so it feels like he'll be back. You guys have thoughts on Gallup?
I like him. Jeff. I like him. I mean, this is a player who, profiling as like potential wide receiver 1 a couple of years ago, playing alongside Amari Cooper. Then the Cowboys take CeeDee Lamb, and it's like everyone forgot about him. I hope CeeDee Lamb plays. I like Gallup even more if he plays, because the Raiders, their pass defense is like, they have one good corner in Casey Hayward, and it's kind of just been like their sack rate has gone down. Like, it's a very attackable defense right now. So if you get Gallup out there on like secondary coverage, and Lamb hasn't practiced, he'll be out there, but he's also not like, this isn't Devontae Adams where, he's getting 10 targets. He actually has only gotten double-digit targets twice this year. Mm-hmm. Gallup will have his chances here, and he's got a very, very winnable matchup against like the Raiders secondary corners. So yeah, this is a spot where I really like Michael Gallup. I like him even more actually if CeeDee Lamb plays for DFS, and that showdown, strategy again, I think it's a good one. I think multiple Dallas skill players will go off in this game. The Raiders rush defense got gashed last week by Joe Mixon. It's actually 2 weeks in a row. And, like Zeke and Pollard, that could be another showdown strategy where you play both Dallas running backs, maybe even like a 3-game slate strategy. So I think you need to pile on. I think if there's one team where you want like the multiple stud exposure to, it's Dallas. As far as the total goes in this game, like they got the biggest implied team total on the slate. Mm-hmm. I think that around 51, 52, they're projected to like score 30, 35 points. And it's just, can the Raiders get to 20 points and bring it the over. So I think the total's set pretty accurately here. I don't really have a strong lean either way, but for DFS, yeah, I like piling on the Dallas skill players, and I like Gallup a lot.
What do you think, Reed?
Yeah. Well, if CeeDee Lamb plays, like the one problem I have is with this one is that the Raiders are so bad against the run, right? They're just really, they've been gashed. Darrell Williams, or just running backs. Darrell Williams, did really well, both in the pass and the run game. We saw what Joe Mixon did against these guys. He got over 100 yards. He looked really, really good. Even though Joe Mixon doesn't have that top end speed, the usage is great. And so when you have a guy like Tony Pollard and Zeke is saying that, all reports are saying that he's good to go and he's healthy, even if he's not, right? A 50-50 split between Tony Pollard and Zeke on a short week for a team that's banged up with Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb banged up. These guys, their offensive line is getting better and they're getting healthier. Tyron Smith, I think, is supposed to play in this game for Dallas. That's huge if he does. If that's the case, couldn't you see like the running back just getting, especially after what Dak did against Kansas City, couldn't you see the running backs getting like 40 to 50% of the workload, like just in terms of offensive snaps? Like that's the one thing that scares me about attacking these pass catchers is that Gallup is fine. And Faison is probably the guy that he's going to go up against the most, Brandon Faison, or I think it's Faison is how you pronounce it. And that's a decent matchup. He's getting targeted on 20% of the wide receiver routes. And he's all right? He's okay from that standpoint. But Cedric Wilson is there. We know that they like to get him involved. CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz is another guy that I really like. Again, the Raiders play that cover 3, and Jonathan Abram as their safety is not good in coverage. He's horrible in coverage. And you see that defense or offenses want to attack wherever he's playing because he's good. He's a hard hitter, but he's terrible at coverage. So like those are the things that you might see these big, and I know that was Gallup before, but I think that's Cedric Wilson more so in this game than Michael Gallup. I think he's still someone to consider, but this one I want to go to Dalton Schultz. I want to go to the running backs in Dallas, and then potentially looking at on the Raiders side, because no one's going to be playing the Raiders. Absolutely no one, and rightfully so. But that's where I think gaining leverage in DFS is the way to go. Because Derek Carr, even though he's been bad, I think there's still places to exploit in this game, mainly on the Raiders side. Maybe Josh Jacobs, maybe Derek Carr. Yeah, not Derek Carr. Maybe Josh Jacobs and like Darren Waller.
Okay, Darren Waller, the most expensive Raider tomorrow, which makes a lot of sense, $6,400. And Jeff, I know we talked about this on Monday. I want to get some more thoughts on this game, but like Steph Diggs is going to be highly owned in that next game as well. And you mentioned the two running backs in Swift and Montgomery handling a lot of the workload in that first game. What about the sports book? This is now the longest spread of the week. Tomorrow's game, Reed, the Raiders, 7.5-point dogs. Look, you're not very high on this football team right now. You're not. Is there any case you can make for the Raiders to cover this tomorrow?
I mean, there is. There's value, I think, with the hook, right? 7.5. Like the Raiders can surprise, and especially in these matchups. I think when you look at Derek Carr and his turnover-worthy plays over the last 3 or 4 games, last 3 games specifically, and you see him and saying, this is all on me. Well, I'm like, yeah, Derek Carr, of course it's all on you. I do think that there is some leverage that you can take. Like I mentioned, I don't think Dallas comes out in their regular offensive sets and wants to put up 35, 40 points because they don't need to, right? Like they just don't need to at all. If the Raiders can get to Dak, and that's what we saw with the Kansas City Chiefs, that they were blitzing all over the place. They were getting to Dak, and Dak just could not figure out. And the Cowboys offense, they don't have check down like running backs or tight ends. They just don't, right? Like that's not their offense. That's not how they play. If they can get to Dak, then I think the Raiders can keep this close, and especially with that hook. And if they can get like in the fourth quarter, that backdoor cover is always scary. I do think there's value on the Raiders. It's just, again, if they're putting up these 14-point, 10-point games, they're not doing their part. That's the one thing that scares me from this standpoint of backing the Raiders, is that if Dallas gets up 21, 24 to 10, what can the Raiders do? Because right now they don't have a deep target. Like everything is 7 yards and in. Like his average depth of target is like 7 yards and in over the last handful of games. The first like few games where we really like Derek Carr, his ADOT was like 9 point something. That's the part that scares me, is they can't push the ball downfield.
Dallas is 2-0 against the spread after a loss this year, 4-1 at home. The over is very friendly in Jarrah world as well. So maybe a total is something you're interested in. Reed, you were saying, Jeff, you were saying this the other day also, or maybe it was last week, heading into the game against Cincinnati. You felt that would be the beginning of the downward slope for the Las Vegas Raiders. So you can get plus money on Dallas -7.5 right now, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I'd rather have it at 7, and it was at 7 earlier, but
yep.
I mean, I do feel pretty good about the Cowboys in this spot. Again, I think this line could be bigger. Like, I really do. I think that, the Cowboys coming off a loss to KC, if the Cowboys beat KC, they're probably like 8.5, maybe even like pushing 10 here. And, what have the Raiders done to earn respect lately? Well, not much. I mean, Reed mentioned the things they could do, and that could happen. But I look at the Raiders as like the exact opposite of KC. Like, the Raiders defense started well, and they've regressed. They don't get pressure anymore. Their run defense is still bad. And now they're facing like a team who's got 2 healthy running backs. And then it's like the opposite of what the Cowboys faced last week. I mean, yeah, like they're going to need to really like flip the switch. Like they are. Reed is dead on. If they don't get pressure here, like this game, I just see the Cowboys getting ahead like 10, 14 points. And then you've got, I think the biggest factor here and why I like the Cowboys is just their defense. This team hasn't allowed over 250 passing yards against in 5 straight games. They're playing really well. They're getting some pressure. And, for whatever reason, the Raiders can't figure out how to get Bryan Edwards involved. They signed Deshaun Jackson. Like, I mean, big whoop, Josh Jacobs runs for like 3 yards per carry. There's just no big plays on the Raiders. If the Cowboys get ahead 10 points, I just don't see this defense giving up a bunch of garbage time. So I'm pretty confident in the Cowboys here. I think that at 7 and even 7.5, the line is probably doubting them a bit too much just because of what happened last week. But I think the Cowboys are clearly the better team, and I think they're going to be healthy enough to win this and cover this.
Flash, too, like we know Dallas, there's a few teams. Dallas, Patriots are probably one of them. Not so much the Raiders, maybe the 49ers, like the Rams. They're publicly bet teams, right? Everybody bets on Dallas. Like, there's so many fans everywhere. So that, when you take that into account, is this number a little inflated? 7.5 points is a ton. We have to think that if 7.5 points, that the Cowboys in this matchup are like one or the other, right? Cowboys are a top 5 team, or the Raiders are like a bottom 5 team. Right. In my mind, that's how I think the 7.5 is a huge spread. And if you take a look, you mentioned the Detroit and Chicago numbers, 62% of the cash for Vegas with getting the points at 7.5 is on Vegas. 62% of the cash is on Vegas at 7.5, 37% of the tickets. And that's essentially reversed, right, for the Cowboys. So what is that saying is that, do we believe the Cowboys with a banged up CeeDee Lamb, a banged up Zeke, like their offensive line, like I mentioned, is getting healthier. No Cooper. Like, the defense is all right. Like, they have, the Trevion Diggs. Is that his first name? I think it is.
I just call him
Trey Diggs. Like, they have players on that side. Like that. That's just like, that's a lot. And to your point about Deshaun Jackson, although he's not catching the ball, maybe he's running the opposite way. You look at the A-dot when he's in, though. The A-dot when he's in and the efficiency on pass plays when he's in is like 2 points higher than when he's not. And he's only in on 14% of this, or 14 snaps last week. He's probably just getting ramped up. They need to have him on the field. Even if he's not catching anything, they need to have him on the field to get Darren Waller open, or else it's good night nurse. Like, there's 0 points that they're going to put up.
Yeah, I think if there's anything that might break their way is a backdoor situation for Vegas. Yep. If they're, I don't know, they're trying to get the young guys going and keep spirits high.
If they can get pressure on Dak, get a couple balls down the field, absolutely, they could keep this game close. I mean, but do you believe that situation is more likely than like them not basically doing what they've done the last 2 weeks, and then just the Cowboys not having to do anything crazy on offense because the running backs take over? I don't know. I'd still side with the Cowboys, but I don't feel like super strongly to the point where I think, because it's a short week, and the short week games are always also a little bit dicey. I mean, the teams have less preparation.
Yeah.
So.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Jeff. If they had beat Kansas City, the number's a little more inflated. You get a better number.
Then I think you're more interested in the Raiders, but I still think that even at 7, I'll take the Cowboys.
All right, I would argue this last one is the game of the week, maybe, because I'm curious to see what Buffalo looks like. Like, what kind of response are we getting out of the Buffalo Bills? The Saints have lost 2 in a row. A team that is now holding on to the final playoff spot in the NFC. 2 weeks ago, I thought they'd be just fine and cover against Tennessee. As it turns out, they didn't. So now they were the 5 seed at the time, went to the 6. Now they're the 7. And there's plus money on the Saints not making the playoffs now. At maybe I have that mixed up, but the Saints are trending down. They've lost 2 in a row to make the playoffs. Yes, at plus 100. Pardon me. So there are plus odds on them getting in the postseason. How do we feel about a home dog, New Orleans on Thanksgiving night, being given 6? Reed, stay away.
I know. I mean, I should have done this. Yeah, I should have did this last week. Yeah, like getting the points. Like if I liked them at plus 3. Right, in against Philadelphia, like there's a difference between Philadelphia and Buffalo, right? From how they play, how their offense is set up. But
where was the game? Was the game in Philly? I don't remember.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, it was. Okay. Yeah, because Kevin Hart was there, I think.
Okay, and I know home field advantage hasn't mattered this year, but I'm just more so curious.
No, this one again is hard because I think I'm still a believer in Buffalo. I know a lot of people aren't. I still think that they have a really good offensive coordinator in Brian Daboll. I think Sean McDermott is one of the best coaches that there is in the NFL. And I take it the same way that Kansas City was going through their turmoil of trying to figure out how to go against these deep cover 2 defenses and get to Patrick Mahomes and say, hey, look, trust in Byron Pringle, trust in the checkdowns, trust in your offense. That's kind of what we want from Buffalo and Josh Allen. He's got 5 interceptions over the last 3 games, which is not great. The Saints, what worried me about the Saints is that their strongest part of their game, which is their run defense, got absolutely gashed. And like, that's scary. Buffalo doesn't run. They don't run at all, but still, right? Like if Buffalo sees that, I think Josh Allen can have a really good game. The points, I'd probably side with the Saints getting the points at first glance, but I think Buffalo comes out the same way they did last time that they got trounced or they got beat by Jacksonville and they put up a lot of points. I do not trust in Trevor Siemian. One of my favorite bets on this slate is taking the Bills minus 2.5 first half, just because the Saints put up 4.3 points in the first half on average in the last 3 games. And Trevor Siemian is god awful. He is one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL right now. And there's zero trust. In the fourth quarter, he's a lot better. But in the first 3, he's terrible. So give me that first half. And other than that, I kind of just want to stay away.
Do you still like it at 3.5? It has moved.
3.5, yeah. Because again, like I think that the Bills come out strong. They have to, right? This kind of, like, I know aesthetics aren't there. They don't mean anything in the NFL like they do in college football. But I still think they have to, right? For their fans, for themselves, they have to come out strong because the last few games, they've been flat.
What do you think, Jeff? Right. In the 3 games you're talking, of course, last week, home, Colts, Jags, and then Miami. They didn't play great. Or was it the Jets? Okay.
Yeah. So the Jets, they put up 45, but it's the Jets, right? But like the other 2 games, they put up 6 against Jacksonville and 15 against Indy.
So the last 2 years, the Bills are 5-0 ATS in non-conference games. I think you have to trust Sean McDermott in this spot. And actually, if you go back to 2019, they're actually 8-1. So the last 3 years, they cover these games. They're really good interconference. Realistically, what are we thinking here? Like if the Bills had just taken care of business last week, like what are we, like, touchdown? I mean, I always kind of look at things like that and just try to think, I mean, if the perception was a little bit different, where would we be getting Buffalo? Maybe even 8? I don't know. I mean, when it comes down to it, it's Josh Allen versus Trevor Siemian. Like it's the Bills defense versus the Saints, who, like Reed mentioned, has been gashed a little bit. And the Bills haven't looked great either. They've got their issues, but I think that there's enough here. The Saints also pass defense, like they have not been good either. They've been allowing far more big plays of late. Some big games, not last week, but that's because they got run over last week and like the Eagles didn't need to pass the ball. But I'm a pretty big believer. I think it's a very good spot for Josh Allen. I think Reed nailed it when I think Josh Allen could run for like a couple touchdowns in this game. And, maybe the Bills defense is, has some issues, maybe Simeon surprises, but even at -6, I mean, you're still getting to a point where even if this develops into a shootout, you could get the push or like a late cover or something. I think this is just giving a little bit too much disrespect to Buffalo to make me take the other side. It's a very public bet. Most people are expecting the Bills to bounce back here, so keep that in mind. But man, when you look at the Bills' larger body of work here versus what the Saints are going to be throwing out there, this is just not a spot I want to be on New Orleans.
Buffalo has not lost yet this season against the spread after a loss, 2-0-1 in 2021. So
yeah, and Glash too. Like look at what the Saints have done their last 3 weeks. They put up 29 points last week, but that's not like, don't be mistaken by the box score. They weren't even close. It was like at least a two touchdown or 17-point deficit from pretty much the entire game. And then they lost to the Falcons. They only put up 25 and they lost to the Falcons in week 9. And it was a last-second field goal by Younghoe Koo, but still, you lose to the Falcons, who's like by far one of the worst teams in the NFL. Like that is saying something. Like they just signed Taysom Hill to a long-term contract, and it makes sense why he's not playing quarterback, right? Is because like if they do, they're gonna have to pay him more, right? So they probably want to keep him in that hybrid role to pay him less. But boy, like Trevor Siemian cannot be the answer. He is like, and he has got a stupid mullet. Like, just get him out of here, right? Like, why is Trevor Siemian still playing in the NFL? I'm sorry.
I think if you want to be really safe with this game, I like the Bills and like teaser bets. Like if you get them down like under 3 or something like that, because I think the one way the Saints cover here is their defense. Like the Bills just don't have enough time to recover, and their offense, the Bills' offense is something like it's almost like the Chiefs' offense right now. We shouldn't be giving it too much credit. And, the Saints still have like a really good D-line. So, again, I'm not like super pumped about betting any of these spreads. I feel like Thanksgiving Day spreads are always very like pretty accurate too. But I do like the Bills. Like if you can tease them down to like under 3 points, I think that's pretty good because even in an ugly game, I mean, I think you've got to trust Josh Allen to pull it out. I'm just not sure which game you tease them with. Maybe the Cowboys or something. But
you probably go to Sunday. Tease them,
or even go to Sunday. At the very least, if you're looking at like teasers, I definitely like the Bills. Probably my favorite one to tease down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big teaser guy. I leave that to like Buchanan and Edlow, who like tease their
the teaser twins,
like those guys. Yeah, that should be the name of the podcast. The teaser.
Yeah, I tried to lobby for that. They obviously went with the longest name possible that doesn't even fit on a Twitter handle.
One thing I think we should talk about.
Unreasonable odds. What did you say, Jeff?
I just for this Buffalo Saints game, I think the one thing that needs to be focused on is like, I think it's a good spot to fade Steph Diggs. Okay. Not because I don't like Steph Diggs, but his ownership in DFS is going to be redonkulous this week, just because there's a ton of value options. At every different.
Look at this
position.
Receiver, $7,900 for the receivers in this game, and then the next one is Callaway at $5,000. Yeah.
So. If you fade Steph Diggs, like you can still play Josh Allen. And like, if you're looking at the two studs, I mean, Josh Allen will have ownership too, but you can pair him with Emmanuel Sanders. You can pair him with Cole Beasley. You can go with Dawson Knox. There's other ways to play Josh Allen, who, don't forget, can also run for a touchdown. So that's probably my DFS way of attacking this game. And I don't even hate the New Orleans receivers because there should be some garbage time action. So at the very least,
Traquan Smith.
Yep. Central Florida's project or whatever Emerson meant.
Built by UCF.
Pretty good Madden player too, Traquan Smith. And as a reminder, if you missed the news off the top, it broke right before we went live. No Alvin Kamara again for the Saints. His third straight game he will not play. And they are 0-2 in their last 2 games without Alvin Kamara. So they haven't, to Reed's point, they're putting their faith in Trevor Siemian to pull it out.
And Mark Ingram's banged up too. He's questionable. Like if they don't have him, it's Tojo. It's Tony Jones Jr.
Tony Jones.
As Ty Montgomery, is he? Because he didn't play against the Eagles, so I don't even know if he's in.
I don't even see him.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. So it's oh boy.
Before we go, we have a couple more minutes. We have to leave in like 3 or 4 minutes. What's a game each of you feel strongly about for this coming Sunday? What do you think? We got some pretty good games in the 1:00 slate. Patriots, Titans, Bucks, Colts.
Yeah. I think so. Like I was mentioning that Dallas is probably going to be part of one of my teasers. I probably want to tease them down to wherever they like, tease them down to 1.5. I think the Colts, man, if you tease them up to +8.5, whatever they're going to land on, +8, get through the key number against the Bucks. Like, I think the Colts have a really good chance of mitigating what Tampa Bay can do well, which is stay in the field for a long time, have these elongated drives. I think the Colts, we got to start really thinking about them as a team that could be scary in the playoffs as well, right? Like they have that type of build to them. Their defense is solid. So I like teasing Dallas down to just essentially, win by a field goal. Like that feels comfortable to me because of what I said. I think they just sit on the ball and run it, and then tease the Colts up against Tampa Bay because that game is really nice. And the Chargers, I know you've been a guy, Glash, that's like the Chargers. I think we got to go back to them, right? Because I think this line started at -1.5 to them, or giving 1.5 to the Broncos. I think it might be up now to 2.5 or 3, wherever it is.
2.5.
I mean, yeah, Herbert looks fantastic, right? And Austin Eckler looks like an absolute monster. He's getting the goal line work. You love him for fantasy. Those two guys right now, and especially against Denver, Justin Herbert's a top 5 quarterback by far. And Teddy Bridgewater is probably where Trevor Siemian is in terms of efficiency, right? Like they don't have what it takes. I don't think Denver does, even though it's in Denver, to hang with the Chargers. This division matchup, I think that gets overinflated because Chargers right now are a team that's playing really well. They're getting to the quarterback, and Denver's got like 18 of their linebackers on IR. They just have, and Von Miller's gone, and everyone in the secondary is either hurt or not playing up to standard. So I like the Chargers as well.
Real quick, Jeff, before you go, because I can't take my eyes off it. Am I missing something? I know Kirk Cousins is a different human being at 1 o'clock, and then he just gets gradually worse as the day goes on. But Vikings +3 and it's plus money. I mean, that's tempting.
Because he's a great quarterback.
I'd actually side with the 49ers. I don't really like that line. Like, I think that line is
square.
It's pretty fair. I mean, it's like the Vikings are the road team there. I mean, they're at 3 points. They're basically saying these teams are pretty equal. Like, I mean, I don't think you can say the Vikings are the favorites. I mean, the 49ers just beat the Rams a couple weeks ago. They're a 2-game win streak. And you look at the Vikings defense, like they're not good against the run. So if anything, I'm probably siding with the 49ers, but I'm probably just staying away from that game because I'll give I'm giving some respect to the Vikings, but the games I like, I don't mind the Titans, man. Like getting a touchdown. It's just the classic. It's gone too far. Like the Patriots are a good team. The Titans, though, their defense has been good. I think you could easily see like a 20-17 game here. 2 defensive-minded coaches. I just think with the touchdown, you got to take the Titans at that plus money. I actually like
right, and they're getting up for these games. They've got up for every big game.
Betting against the Patriots, though, that is a fool's errand this year, man.
This is the Patriots' first real game of the year.
But Tennessee is also very banged up. AJ Brown didn't practice. They have no running game whatsoever, and Ryan Tannehill has been the least efficient he's been over the last couple of years.
I get it.
Yeah, injuries at receiver.
Yeah. And look, the Patriots, trust me, I've bet against Patriots and I've lost money substantially because I did not believe in what they're doing. And Mac Jones now to the Bill Belichick's credit.
Thursdays. That's why.
It's true.
He's pissing you off. You're like, that's it. I'm locking it in.
Exactly. Their defense is playing really well. I get the Tennessee Titans that play up to this game, but they play up to these games with all of their players. No Julio Jones, potentially a banged up AJ Brown. No running game whatsoever. It's Dontrell Hilliard. I mean, come on.
Okay,
that's tough.
Don't matter. Look, as we're talking, this line went from 6.5 to 7. So clearly nobody.
Okay, maybe now. And a half point then.
And look, man, it's probably going to get up to 7.5. I just think. Look, everyone wants to play a trend. Oh, the Patriots so good against the spread. Go look at the Titans against the spread record the last 3 years. Mike Vrabel is a very good coach. Mm-hmm. It's just too many points. It's just a little bit too much. It's just gone a little bit too far. I'm not even saying the Titans are a better team than the Patriots. I've been the one the last 3 weeks before everybody jumped on the Patriots saying this is a very good team. So trust me, I'm on the Patriots bandwagon. It's just
too many points.
The spot. Like the Giants as well. That's too many points. Like they should not be home underdog. Like the Eagles aren't that good a team. I'm sorry. They're playing well, but again, it's just shifted too much in sentiment. The Giants keep games close. 3.5 at home. Yeah, I'll take the Giants there. And then I like the Texans as only -2.5 against the Jets. Dude, Jets are terrible. They're terrible.
So the Texans, like, come on.
Who cares?
That's true. They're better
It's
than the
Tyrod
Jets.
Taylor, man. Like, at least
Yeah.
he's a competent quarterback. They'll just run. Look, they'll probably run it 30 times and they'll probably win like 17-10. I mean, there's no, what are you taking the Jets?
Yeah. Well, just going back in your 49ers take, Jeff, and I'll leave it at this. They have won since their Super Bowl 2 years ago. They have one home win. One home win. So they have zero home field advantage. That home win again was against the Rams, who were probably tired, banged up, and lost Robert Woods right before the game. Like that's
like I said, I'm not touching that game. I'm just saying.
I'm a Glash on that one. I think.
And look, Kyle Shanahan's like home against the spread record is also terrible, I believe.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins, 84 mil. Take it to the bank, baby.
Yeah, that's a game.
Oh, that's right.
I don't want to trust.
Banter. Here we go.
I just think that line.
We do need to go. We have to go.
Okay.
Let's get out of here.
So that was fun. Great job, guys. Enjoyed it. Hopefully Emerson's back next week. We'll see what happens. You all have a great Thanksgiving. Jeff, do you celebrate? No Thanksgiving tomorrow, right?
Just Thursday, just Thursday for me tomorrow. But
you just roll on tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for Jeff Ulrich, Reed
the
Fowler.
same pleasure for they didn't get the same pleasure from the English as we did.
Thanks to Eamon as well as Daniel behind the scenes. We are off tomorrow and Friday. The next time you will see these two is on Sunday on Bally Sports, also Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter to get you set for Week 12 Sunday in the NFL. Thank you all for tuning into the Slate. You all have a great Thanksgiving. Take care. Bye.